welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to talk about something you've probably never heard of, but trust me, it's a huge deal. It's called eco-criticism, and it's all about this deep, powerful connection between the stories we tell and the actual health of our planet.
But let me start by asking you a question. When you think about nature, the forests, the oceans, all the wildlife, do you picture it as something separate from our world? Separate from cities and art and all our human stuff? Because for a really long time, that's how we've been told to see it. But what if that whole separation is just a story? A story we made up, and what if changing that story in our books, in our movies, in our very own myths is one of the most powerful things we can do for the environment? Yeah, that's the wild idea we're jumping into today.
Okay, so let's start with this split, this divide. For centuries, a lot of Western thought has basically put a giant wall between human culture and the natural world. Culture was where all the cool stuff happened, progress, ideas, civilization. And nature? Well, nature was just kind of there, a bunch of resources for us to use.
The scholar William Ruckert just came right out and said it. He said culture has often fed like a predator and parasite upon nature. Wow. I mean, that really paints a picture, doesn't it? It frames the relationship as this one-way street of taking and using, not connecting. And we all know now that's just not sustainable.
So if that's the problem, how do we even begin to fix it? Well, eco-criticism gives us this amazing tool. Think of it like a new pair of glasses or a new lens that lets us look at our own culture in a completely different way, with the environment front and center.
So what is it really? At its heart, eco-criticism is simply a way of looking at our culture, everything from ancient myths to the latest video games, and asking, how does this talk about nature? How does it shape our ideas about the environment? And once you start looking through this lens, you start to see this deep, fundamental conflict that runs through pretty much all of our stories. It's like a huge philosophical battle over our place in the world. And this battle really comes down to two big ideas. On one side, you've got anthropocentrism. That's the human-centered view. It says we're the most important thing and nature's value comes from how useful it is to us. Then, on the other side, you've got ecocentrism. This is the life-centered view that says, hey, hold on, we're just one small part of this massive web of life, and everything in it has value just because it exists.
Now, this eco-critical lens isn't just a single thing. It's more like a camera with different filters you can switch between. Each filter is a different school of thought that helps us see things in a totally new light. Let's look at a few of the big ones.
First up, you've got deep ecology. And now, this isn't just about being really good at recycling. It's a huge shift in thinking. It argues for something called biospheric equality, which is a fancy way of saying every single life form, from a mountain to a microbe, has a right to exist, whether it's useful to us or not. So a deep ecologist watching a movie might ask, is that river just a background for the hero's boat, or does the river have its own life, its own story?
The guy who started the movement, Arne Naess, he really nailed it. It's not about how we can use something. It's about its intrinsic value. A forest is amazing just because it's a forest, not because we can turn it into lumber.
Okay, another filter is ecofeminism, and this one makes a really powerful connection. It suggests that the same mindset that has historically devalued and oppressed women is the exact same mindset that has led us to exploit and dominate nature. Think about classic fairy tales, right? How often is the wild woman, the witch, and the wild forest portrayed as something dangerous that needs to be tamed or controlled?
Ecofeminism basically attacks this whole system of putting things in pairs where one is better than the other, men over women, culture over nature. It argues that if you want to heal the planet, you absolutely have to heal those social hierarchies too. They're part of the same problem.
And that leads us to our last one, social ecology. This viewpoint says, look, environmental problems are actually social problems in disguise. If your whole society is built on some people dominating other people, you're going to end up dominating nature too. It's the same pattern. So for a social ecologist, a story about a big corporation polluting a river isn't just an environmental story. It's a story about power and class and what happens when one group has way too much control.
Okay, I know this is a lot of theory, big ideas, right? But does any of this stuff actually matter in the real world? Can a story, a belief, actually save a forest? You bet it can. Let me tell you about an absolutely incredible historical event.
This is the story of the Bishnoi Revolt. So a long time ago in India, a king needed wood for his new palace. He ordered his soldiers to go cut down these sacred trees. But the local Bishnoi community had a story, a belief system that said harming these trees was forbidden.
To them, the trees were sacred. So what did they do? They went out and they hugged the trees to protect them with their own bodies.
And I need you to understand, this wasn't just a symbolic protest. The king's soldiers didn't stop. And in this incredible act of peaceful resistance, 363 men, women, and children were killed protecting those trees. Their story, their ecocentric worldview, was more important to them than their own lives. If you ever need proof that our beliefs can lead to real-world action, this is it.
So, this whole eco-critical lens thing, it is absolutely not just for academics in dusty libraries. It's a real, practical tool that every single one of us can start using to understand the world we live in right now.
I mean, this isn't about ancient history or complex philosophy papers. We are swimming in stories every single day that are shaping how we think about the planet, whether we realize it or not.
Seriously, think about it. The next time you're watching a big summer blockbuster, ask yourself, is nature just a pretty background, or is it an actual character in the story? When you see that car ad with an SUV tearing up a pristine mountain, what story is that telling us? You can use this lens on everything, from the news to video games to the commercials you see every day.
And that's really the superpower that eco-criticism gives you. It's the ability to see the invisible stories running in the background of our lives, the stories that tell us what nature is for and where humans fit into the whole picture. It's like seeing the cultural software that's running our society's hardware.
Which brings us to the last and maybe most important question, the one where we turn the lens back on ourselves. When you look around at your life, your town, your country, what are the big stories being told about the environment? Are they stories that separate us from nature, or are they stories that connect us to it? Because once you see the story, you can start to change it.